Welcome to my second greenhouse chat ever. Greenhouse Chats are my new series where we can discuss topics that you have selected, things that you wanted to learn more about or dive deeper into, that sort of thing. So today's Greenhouse Chat, second ever, is going to be about propagation. So, you know, one of my main things that I love is saving money in the garden any way I can. So propagating plants from other existing plants is one of those ways. Propagating can happen in a number of ways, but the couple of things we're really going to focus on right now are cuttings and taking cuttings from plants and rooting them either in soil or in water. Those would be the things that I think we're going to focus on mostly today. Now, last winter, I made a video about propagating snake plants, begonias, cordyline, all cuttings that I took and rooted in water. And I went through that whole process. So if you want to know more about those particular plants, look back at that video. But in this video today, we're going to talk about Croton and Petra. We are going to talk about ivy, decorative cabbage, kalanchoe, and a little bit about Colus as well. So kind of 5 things we're going to get into talking about how to propagate, what has worked best. And I'm going to show you the things that I propagated back in November, I believe, and I showed you the whole process, what I was snipping off, how I was going to put it into soil, and here we are, let's call it 8 weeks later, some things give or take, and let's take a look at the progress so we can see what is actually working. The first thing I want to talk about is the decorative cabbage. So let's take a look back in time to exactly how I took my cuttings of the cabbage in the fall. The cabbage, the new cabbage heads are just starting their growth like this. So what I'm thinking I would like to do is clip off some of these bottom leaves. Give me a nice little stem here. I don't even know. I don't know how many leaves to clip off. So I'm going to tell you the results of my experiment so you know exactly what to do next time. Since I'm going to try to put this into soil and root it, one of the things I want to be sure I'm going to do is mist it with water so that it can take water in through its leaves since it doesn't have a root system. But what I'm going to do is put multiple of these cuttings into one little pot of soil and just kind of see what happens. All right, so now that we saw what exactly I did with the cabbage cuttings, let me show you the progress. So here's the deal. This was November 12th. I took the cutting of the cabbage. I did a few of them in a couple of different pots. And once I was done, I put them in my garden tub, which is full of other propagations right now. Here's the deal. Cabbage really does like the cold weather, but I was trying not to keep my little baby tender cuttings out into the cold weather because I wasn't sure how they would do. So I have not taken this out of its pot yet to see what kind of root system I have going on, but you can see it's okay, but it's a little sad, a little dreary. The colors are not as vibrant as the mama plant over here. So let's see how we did in terms of roots. I'm going to just dig this up right now, kind of pick it out of here and see what we got going on. I have some roots. So first of all, let's take note at the color difference here, okay? So mama plant is much more vibrant than baby plant. So oh, by the way, mama plant has been outside through the winter weather and all the crazy dips in temperature and everything that we've had, frost, whatever, this has been here. So I think the cooler weather would have been better for it. However, let me show you what I got. Just going to dip this in the water jar over here. So this is what I have happening here. You can see some roots right at the bottom, but it's certainly something that could grow on its own at this point. So for me, I would say this is successful because it did root, and I really didn't know if taking a cutting off of a cabbage stem like that would root. So that did work. I don't feel like the stems are really long and hardy enough to make me feel absolutely comfortable with just plopping it back outside. And if the temperatures are going to 20 degrees and that sort of thing, am I okay with that? I don't love it, but I do think it needs to spend more time out of my garden tub. Maybe not even in the greenhouse since it gets so warm in here during the day. So I'll have to think on where I'm going to put this. But so the answer to our question is, can you root cuttings directly that you take off of a cabbage stem? And the answer is yes. Okay, the number 2 propagation that we're going to check on is this ivy. Now, maybe you remember, if you've been following along, that this pot of begonias and ivy was my mom's. My mom lives in New York, and she was just going to ditch her pot arrangement because frost came early to her and she was afraid everything was going to die. So when I went for a visit back in October, I said, nope, don't let it die. I'm going to take it home. And I have some begonias left. A bunch of the stems did die back, but it's fine. It's fine because I've rooted a bunch of other begonia clippings. That's not one of the things we're really getting into today, but it's okay. We're making more begonias. But they did get too badly damaged from the frost and I couldn't get all of it to come back. But she has all this delightful ivy growing out of her pot. And I was like, you know, I might be nursing this pot back to health to give it back to you, but I'd like some of this ivy too. I never propagated ivy before, so I didn't know how easy or hard it was. So I simply took cuttings of the long stems that I already had. This was on December 4th, so this was about 1 month ago-ish. Look what I got. So I have beautiful roots on my ivy. This is ready to be planted up because the roots are long enough. Now we'll just take note that the roots did come from leaf nodes. See this right here? Leaf node. So it did not actually come from the bottom of the stems, but it came from the leaf node. So this was something we talked about before. So when you are going to take a stem cutting of something, if it's possible to get some of the leaf nodes are just the little areas where the leaves are going to grow out of. If you can leave some of those that can also be dunked in water, in this case we rooted this cutting in water, do that because you never quite know if it's going to start rooting out of a leaf node or out of the bottom of the cutting. And it's usually the leaf node. So here we go. Can you propagate ivy from a stem cutting? And the answer is yes. The next plant we're going to test to see if our propagations worked out is the Colus. So Colus, for me, I didn't have a lot going on Colus-wise before because I have a very sunny, all sun, actually, flower beds. And Colus tends to like more shade. However, this year I found out that there are more sun-loving varieties, which is fabulous. So anyway, I was doing a little bit of a propagation test on some Colus. I've heard other people say that they've propagated before, but we want to know how easy is it? Can we all do it? So here's what I found out. If you are able to take a clipping of the stem of the Colus, the stem, not just a leaf, a stem, you can get it to root. I went ahead and rooted these directly in soil, these Colus. And I also did a test at the same time, stem cuttings and leaf cuttings. I tried to just propagate from a leaf. The leaf cuttings did not work for me, but the stem cuttings did. So I am getting roots on these new plants just simply from a stem cutting. So there you go. Can we successfully propagate Colus from a stem cutting? The answer is yes. The next little baby we want to talk about is the kalanchoe. So I took this clipping from my kalanchoe plant back in the fall. Let's look back at that footage. I actually saw somebody else use a spoon in a YouTube video, so I thought I would give that a try. I have no roots on the cutting of my pup here, so I am going to let this harden off. So basically just air dry until I get a little callus formed here, and then I'm going to try to plant it into some soil. While I'm at it, I think I will take the buried leaf also, again, just so I have two things hardening off at the same time. So now I have a leaf cutting and my little pup. So both of these are going to be in new pots, and I'm going to put them in my trusty garden tub, which is my favorite area to overwinter or propagate cuttings for things, since I have a nice bright window there that they can sit by. So I'm going to do that, and then meanwhile, this guy has to be moved inside the house. Okay, so back then I took a leaf and I put that in soil, and I took this little baby and I put this in soil. These are both living in my garden tub. I just have the little baby here. I don't have the leaf out here. So let's see if we look at this, if we've created roots. I hope so, because this is such a cute plant. Feels pretty firm. Like, I feel like I have some resistance here. Yes. Okay, whoo! And this is way better than the cabbage. And I'm excited because this plant is so cool. Cabbage is cool too, but this one is so cool. I'm really thrilled to be able to have roots on it. So good, we can make kalanchoe plants, flapjacks. I believe these ones are flapjacks, I think so. So we can propagate those also. Okay, here's our final test. Something that I had never done before was taking the Croton and Petra and just clipping off pieces of little stem off of the big stem. We can look back at that. I can do it from a stem cutting, and I want a stem that has at least 5 leaves on it. I'm looking for a good one here. And I'm gonna get a decent length stem. So now, as we usually do when we do propagating of stem cuttings, we are going to take a lot of these leaves off. Now, as far as I know, you can't propagate this plant from a leaf cutting itself. Otherwise, I would definitely do that because those leaves are stinking gorgeous. So be it. We're sitting here making a brand new plant, so we're going to deal with this. Cutting off most of these leaves. I'm going to leave myself with a few, and honestly, I don't know if this is going to be too many, but that's okay. We're starting with a little experiment here. The next thing I am going to do is get a pot ready. Where are all of my pots? Behind me. And I'm going to put my potting soil in this. I am going to go ahead and use the powder rooting hormone on this. When I propagate plants, I don't always use the rooting hormone. In fact, I mostly don't. But in the case of this one, because I have never propagated it before, I figured what would be the harm in giving it a little extra boost. Soil is in my pots. The next thing I'm doing, I got this rooting hormone simply from Amazon. You can get them over the counter anywhere. It's literally a little jar of powder. I am going to take my stem cutting. I am going to dip it in water. Actually, you know what? I also wonder if I need a leaf node for my roots to grow out of. So what I'm gonna do, I have some leaf nodes all the way down here. I'm just gonna, like, what did they say? Like, pick off some of the bark on the leaf nodes. And I'm gonna see, I don't know if the roots are actually gonna grow out of the nodes or grow out of the cut bottom, but I'm going to make sure that my leaf nodes as well as the bottom all get dipped into water. I poured some of my rooting hormone powder right into this lid here. Now that I have the rooting hormone on here, I'm just gonna stick my finger right into the middle of this soil and make a little dip. And I'm going to stick my Croton plant right in the center. I had absolutely no idea what was going to happen with this. And I had said back then that I was leaving the leaves on just as a test. A lot of times when you propagate and you want something to root, you do cut most of the leaves off. I will tell you that I have 3 of these Crotons in different pots. A lot of the leaves did come off over time, so I think it was just too much to be able to keep the leaves and produce roots at the same time. So something to note, let's remove more leaves on the Croton next time we do it. And now I'm going to dig into this pot and see if I have any roots. I am going with a big fat no. I see no roots. Wait, maybe one? Let me see. I think there's the tiniest little hair root. So this one's weird. I don't know what to say because I have leaves that are still on it. It didn't lose all of them, but it doesn't seem to be gathering nutrients from the soil. So I'm going to say so far the Croton propagation is not successful. So today we went through 5 things that could potentially have been propagated, 4 of which worked. Like I said, last year my video was another 3 things, and we have propagated all throughout the year as well, but that's just an easy video to go look back on to see those items. So you see, you never really know what you can root and make more of unless you try. So I guess the Croton was a fail, but other people did say that it worked, so I'm gonna let it stay in the soil and keep going. Here's something to note, we've talked about it before. When you are going to root a stem cutting, so it's something that does not already have roots, it isn't going to be able to suck up water from the soil from underneath. So you wanna make sure you're misting it enough that it's getting its moisture and water from the top. Perhaps I didn't water the Croton enough for its liking. I'm not sure, but that remains to be seen. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video about the propagation update. As I say all the time, please let me know if you have other ideas and things you really want to talk about in these greenhouse chats, because we're here to do this together at a time when we can't get our hands in the dirt because it's too cold outside. So hence being cozy in the greenhouse. If you do like the kind of content I provide and you haven't subscribed already, please do that. This way, that ensures that my content keeps showing up in your feed. Thank you so much for watching, for all the support. I love it. This is so fun. And until next time, happy planting.